line in terms of maintaining the privacy of folks who CRM users are hoping to have become customers at some point. Is there a hard and fast way that we can decide what data should belong to the individual and or company, and what data is free to be leveraged in terms of sales?
It's a tricky one. It's very dependent on, it's going to be very regulation based, so which means it's very dependent on where in the world. Obviously, Europe has a different level of regulation. I just remember years ago, this is college hackathon scene, right? 2013, I don't even know. I was at a hackathon, and one of the tools was like a database where the central idea was users have to give permission to access the data itself. So they actually have the key to the data, if you will, and you as the SaaS provider actually don't have the key to the data. Like, you would not be able to see or access or change the data without their permission. And it was like such a foreign concept to me, because they were like, hey, this is to comply with regulations in the EU. I wasn't living in that world yet of understanding what that meant. So it was very foreign to me. So I know that there can be big shocks between US based companies and EU based companies around what that looks like. Now, I guess there's questions around who does the data belong to, what is allowed. I do feel that if someone, like, everyone has the right to not be contacted by you if you tell them to stop. So that's like always, there's some base foundations of if someone actually, like, everyone needs the ability to opt out of something. Now, people don't always make that easy, but I believe that's like a base thing that everyone should be able to do. They should be able to tell you, don't contact me again, don't do X, I don't want this call recorded, I don't want this meeting transcribed, whatever it might be. But at the same time, you have some base things. Let's say like someone's LinkedIn profile, right? It's like, all right, how are you reaching this? When I was at sales off, this is one of the big things that would happen. It's like, how are you reaching out to me? And it's like, your email is your first name at company.com, right? I don't have a magic data source. I just sent an email to there, and your email server told me that it was a valid address. And so there's questions there of, should sales teams reach out to those people, right? If they got their email that way. I would say yes. I would say like that lives in like a healthy boundary to me of being acceptable. I think some people would say no one should ever reach out to anyone without consent. But those people, I don't think that's a realistic worldview of like, how does software get purchased? How do things get made? Often people that say things like that benefit from the system and are also able to wash their hands clean of it because they're in like the development world, or they're far enough away from it where they're not doing it, but their company is, or the way that they've gotten their money is through systems like that. So I approach it with a degree of like, I do believe I'm not like companies should be able to do whatever they want. At the same time, I think it's acceptable to do things like reaching out to people and keeping track. If I start emailing you and we're having a conversation, I think it's okay to be like, all right, I'm going to like keep records of this. I think that's acceptable. Unless someone says, do not keep a record of this, then you get into like, all right, you shouldn't do it then. Who does the data belong to? I always think like the data belongs to the company at the end of the day. So let's say you're on like a CRM, right? I don't think the CRM ever owns the data, and I don't think I don't know of any that would claim to. So it's like the data is owned by the company and they're responsible for that data. There'll be interesting questions as like regulation progresses over time of like, let's say someone sends a no contact order to the CRM itself, and they're like, I don't want any of your users to ever contact me. Then I think that is a problem that will have to be solved via if that is the way that the legislation wants it to be, that would have to be like expressly dictated via the regulation, because you get into questions like, who does this data belong to? If it's not your data, do you have the ability to say you can't use it for this purpose, or you can't use our platform to reach out to this person? But by even doing that, I have to acknowledge that they've given this like no contact order to, you get into these like weird situations. I don't think it's like a cut and dry thing. Hopefully that's not too rambly. I think it's complicated. Like it's not, and I believe in like respecting what like privacies people have and respecting the like legislation that's out there. And I also think it's very complicated.